Hey guys, welcome back to my channel Shut Up and Read, and welcome back to another reading vlog. The topic for this reading vlog is my May arcs. So I have a lot of books that are coming out in May, and I have picked out my first physical book and then my two ebooks. So the first book that I want to pick up physically is Girl, Serpent, Thorn by Melissa BASHARDOUST. I hope I pronounced her last name correctly. This one is supposed to be, as stated here, the literary / commercial fantasy breakout of 2020. I did read online that this book is supposed to be inspired by Persian mythology, but what that actual mythology is called, I'm not entirely sure. But either way though, I love my mythologies, I love my retellings inspired by books, I love fantasy, I love books about curses, so this book just sounds perfect and I honestly cannot wait to read this soon. Then in terms of my two ebooks, I have my laptop here, so I'm just going to go through them both very quickly. The first one over here is Of Silver and Shadow by Jennifer GRUENKE. I just know this book is a fantasy and it's about a girl called Ren who is a silver wielder. I don't know necessarily what that means, but it's a fantasy. I feel like I've been reading a lot of contemporaries recently, so any fantasy I'm usually just like, I'm here for this. But it seems to also have something to do with a rebellion, a group of warriors, and a competition of sorts. So I don't know, but either way this book just sounds fascinating. I haven't really heard too much about this book, so I don't really know what to expect, but fingers crossed that it'll be freaking amazing. The next ebook that I'll be reading is Tiny Imperfections by ALLI and ASHA YOUMANS. I actually just got this book from the publisher a few days ago, so I'm actually really excited to be reading this pretty early on. Like usually I get the books from publishers and it'll take me months to pick up, so I feel like I'm on top of it this time around. This one is definitely a contemporary romance novel. It's about a woman who is 39 years old and she used to be a model, but her modeling career is far behind her now, and it kind of just talks about her life with her daughter and trying to go back onto the dating scene and realizing that there might be some surprises close to home. So honestly, these books, I feel like this time around I have a good selection. I have two fantasy and one contemporary. I don't know what my fourth and final book will be yet, but I'm really excited and hopefully May will be a really good reading month. So anyways, that is it in terms of this intro, and I will check back in once I read some books. So just jumping in very quickly for an update, and that is for Girl, Serpent, Thorn. This one, okay, so I am currently on page 260, but before I get into my thoughts so far about this book, let's just say that I realized that I was a bit of a dum-dum because I picked up this book and saw that it was coming out in May, and it actually says over here May 12th to be exact. But usually when I update Goodreads, I update it the day of, the day after. For some reason for this particular book, I didn't update it until like 2 or 3 days after I started reading it. And somehow on Goodreads the publication date is now July. So I don't know if it was pushed back because of coronavirus, because I know a lot of publications were doing that, or for whatever reason, it doesn't really matter, but I'm pretty sure it's now in July. So I'm basically reading this book very early, and it shouldn't even be in this video, but because I already started this book, I didn't want to just put it down and pick up another book, because I'm not the type of person to do that. Like, once I start a book, I need to follow it through unless I DNF it. If I put it down for a long period of time, I will never pick it up again. That's just not my style. So I decided to just go through with it and just continue reading it, even though it's technically coming out in July, and I'm still gonna put it for my May arc video, but it is what it is, guys, like whatever. This book follows a girl called Soraya who, ever since she was young, her mother told her that because of an incident when she was young with a div, which is some sort of like immortal being. I want to say some sort of demonic creature. So because of her mother's experience as a kid, Soraya was born being poisonous to the touch. So if anyone touches her, any living creature, human, animal, whatever, they will die. So she grew up basically living in this isolated room. No one can really interact with her. She had a few friends when she was younger, but they had to be very careful about not touching her. She always had to wear gloves, and so she finally got to this point where she was just like, she felt like she was missing out on life. Her twin brother was about to become king, being married to like her best friend when she was growing up, and so she really felt that she was missing out on what could have happened. And so her biggest dream is to become normal, get rid of this poison in her body, and be able to touch people and be able to interact with people. So one day this guy called Azad shows up. He's a new like palace guard, soldier, etc. And things happen, and together the two of them end up being able to figure out a way for her to cure her poison. Unfortunately though, once she does that, she realizes that there's a bigger plot at hand, and that maybe her being poisonous was for her own good and not the other way around. So there's a lot of intrigue in this book. I really liked it. The storytelling is fantastic. It's very beautifully written. I would say my biggest issue though is that I do think that the main girl, sometimes she's a little bit of a dum-dum, but I also understand where she's coming from, because her greatest desire really is to just be loved and being able to touch people and being able to interact with others and being able to just be with people. And I really see where her drive, like her purpose, is behind everything. So there's a lot of decisions that she's made that really reflects on that. But so far I'm really enjoying it. I'm actually flying through it. I do think the beginning was a bit slow to pick up, but I think a lot of these books are. But either way though, I'm really enjoying it. I really like the characters. I really like the whole human versus div, and whether or not divs are actually as demonic as she grew up thinking that they were. And there's also a like romance in here that I am actually kind of shipping, and I'm really hoping that things work out, because it would be really nice if it does. Because for a while I actually thought that Soraya would end up with someone else, but I think I like the way how the romance is heading towards instead. Like I like that ship much more than my original assumption. So anyways, that is it in terms of this update, and I will check back in later after I finish this book and hopefully start my ebook, which I haven't even started yet. Okay, so I just finished a book, and that is Girl, Serpent, and Thorn by Melissa BASHARDOUST. I actually really like this book. I'm gonna give this book 4 stars. It was just what I wanted in a fantasy. I really enjoyed being the characters, except for some aspects of Soraya. I really liked the romance in there, and there's a lot of elements to it that I just really enjoyed. So it was a really fun read, and I liked it. So I'm gonna give this book 4 stars. So the next book I'm gonna pick up is The Betrothed by KIERA. Honestly, I was super hesitant about picking this up, but I just feel like I'm still really intrigued. So I've heard some negative reviews, specifically from Katie, from Katie's Book Nook, and she gave like 1 star or something. But I don't know, I just still feel like I want to pick it up anyways and see if maybe it's really that bad. But I definitely have some low expectations, like some really low expectations at this point. But I really liked her selection series, and I figured why not just give it a shot anyways. And I figured why not vlog about it in the meantime, because KIERA, like I feel like a lot of people have read her previous series, that I know a lot of people will be interested in this book. So I thought I'll just vlog my experience while reading it and see if I like it or not, or if my expectations, which is very low at this point, is accurate. But yeah, I'm excited to see if it's good. I don't know, I definitely have some low expectations, but either way though, I'm really happy I finished reading 1 book in this vlog already. I was going to pick up my ebook, but I'm in the middle of another one right now, and that ebook expires, or like it's due back in the library in 3 days. So I kind of want to get through that first, and then I can tackle my NetGalley 2 ebooks that I'm reading for this vlog. But anyways, that's it in terms of this update, and I will check back in later. Okay, so I thought I would just jump in very quickly, give you guys an update, because I have been reading this book over here. I'm currently on page 196, so I have made some progress, but I don't know, I feel like I don't not like this book, but at the same time I'm like, I don't really know what to think, because in a way there's nothing really going on with this book. I feel like this book is just like random. It's about this girl called Hollis who, like, first of all, I feel like you're thrown into the story, and I feel like the author forgot to write like 5 or 6 chapters, because you're thrown in a situation where Hollis, the main girl, she is like basically one of the many girls courting the king. And then the first chapter, like literally within the first few pages, she's like, oh, I guess the king invited us to this like outing or whatever. And then from there they like have this whole thing event going on, and then suddenly like she is the king's favorite. And I'm just like, okay, so I feel like there's a lot of stuff that had led up to that point, but we don't know any of that. Like, we get tidbits here and there about the girls who were there like previously, or who were there also to court the king, and etc, etc. I feel like there's a lot of like history between when Hollis entered the castle to court the king, and then to where we actually are, like where the book actually started. So I feel like this book, like, I don't know, I just feel like this author like forgot like a really big chunk of the beginning, and I feel like you're just thrown into this world where you're just like, okay, so like who's Hollis, and like why is she so charming? And I don't really understand the attraction between Jameson, who is the king, and her, and why he finds her so charming, because like you don't know any of that history. You're just really thrown in, and next thing you know, like he's like, oh, I found you so charming and you make me laugh all the time, and you're just like, okay, I feel like it's happened once. You know, like there's no history. So I don't know, I just feel like this book is just really odd in that sense, and I don't really know what to think really. At the same time though, it's not like a bad book. It's just like basically like I don't know, I just feel like it's a story where you're just like, okay, you're trotting through and you're like, okay, I get, you know, like what's going on. I understand like the premise essentially. Like, I mean, it's a very basic storyline. Like, you really cannot get confused, I think, but it's just like there's just so much plot to this book that's missing, I feel like. And the character herself, Hollis, she doesn't really have any substance, I think. It's said a lot that she's charming and she makes him laugh and all of that good qualities, but I don't know, I just think it's more saying versus showing, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I don't know, I feel like this book is just really not the greatest, but it's not like a bad book. Like, it's just like bland. Like, I feel like this book is just, I don't know, like I don't really know what to think about it. I'm almost done with it though. Like, it's a very fast book to read. I just feel like it's certainly not great. Like, I feel like the Selection series was amazing, and I read that recently too, within the past few years, so it's not like I outgrew her books or anything like that. But I feel like this book and even the writing quality just seems very subpar to that series. So I don't know, guys. I would definitely not be picking up the sequel. I'm just reading it through because it's a fast read and it's just easy for me to get through, and I figured might as well. Like, I'm already 200 pages in essentially, so it's easy for me to just like go through it. So anyways, that is it in terms of this update, and next time I update, guys, hopefully I'll finish this book and then actually start some of my ebooks, because it's been a while. Wow, I am so freaking tired, but I do have some updates for you guys. It's actually only been like a day or two since I last updated you guys, but I've done a ton of reading. So I managed to finish this book over here, and I'm going to give this book 2 stars. I feel like it's not the worst book that I read, but it's certainly not great. A lot of my previous assessments still stands, and I feel like the ending was just really bizarre for me. I feel like definitely was a huge plot twist, and I definitely did not see it coming, but not in a particularly good way. I feel like the ending was just like, what just happened? And I cannot believe, like, it was just weird and definitely out of the blue, I think. In a way, I feel like maybe it was hinted at, but I just like did not expect it at all. So that is with this book. Unfortunately, I just really didn't care much for it. I don't think it's really a 1-star read, but I think 2 stars is fair in my opinion. It was just an okay read, not the worst book. Definitely not great, but anyways, that is it with this one. But this next book that I picked up is one that I am loving so much. This one is Of Silver and Shadow, and currently I am 70% of the way through. I am literally flying through it. It is so freaking good. So this book follows 4 characters. One is Ren, who is a silver wielder, which means that she can somehow manipulate silver, conjure it out of thin air and dissipate it into thin air, and she can use it however she likes. When she was very young, her parents died in a fire, and it's mostly because of her fault. So ever since then, she's been living on the streets trying to fend for herself and trying to survive on her own. And in this particular kingdom, the royal lineage, the royal family 100 years ago was very, very paranoid, and 100 years ago there were tons of silver wielders in the country, or like in the kingdom, but because of this very paranoid king at that time, he basically caused a genocide against all silver wielders. So only the royal family have magic right now, and for whatever reason, she has magic. So she's basically the sole person in this entire kingdom, other than the royal family, who has the ability to manipulate magic, specifically with silver. So this book follows her perspective, and then one day she ends up stumbling upon a rebellion, and then this book also follows the rebellion's leader and kind of like his perspective and all of this stuff. It also follows two other perspectives. One is ALLI, who is a king's children. So this very bizarre thing that the king did was that he would somehow like steal children or like get children who were stolen or something like that, and he would train them from a very young age, and they are very skilled with literally everything. Like no one can even consider going up against a king's children because they've been trained from so young, and they're so precise and they're so skilled at what they do. So this book follows one of the king's children. Her name is ALLI, and the thing is, unlike other king's children, she still has some sort of humanity left in her, but because of her position and because of the expectations on her, she has to hide her feelings all of the time. And it kind of follows like what she's willing to sacrifice and what she's willing to do to eventually not become a king's children, because there's really only one option to not become a king's children for her. And then the fourth perspective we follow is the prince, and he is not the crown prince, he is a younger brother, and he is a very interesting character because unlike his brother, his older brother, and the king, he actually is a nice guy. So because he doesn't want to be like his family, he basically every night he sneaks out of the palace and likes to mingle with the commoners, and so he really knows more about their lifestyle and kind of what they're doing, and somehow he gets involved with the rebellion as well. So like this book overall is just really good. There's just so many elements to it. I feel like I'm not doing a very good job at explaining it because there's just so many plot lines that are weaving together, and I don't really want to spoil anything by accident, but this book is just so good. I'm really loving the characters. There's romance in here that I'm just like here for. I don't know if this is a series though, so I'm kind of hoping it's not, because I'm 70% of the way through and I feel like there is a good chance that this book will actually end on a standalone, but I guess I'll find out later. Either way though, I am loving this book. This book's fantastic and I'm having a really great time reading it. I'm loving the characters. They're just so good. I love the plot. There's just so many action going on, and the writing is also very fast-paced, but like in a good way. I also never feel lost in this book, even though it's like in the fantasy world. There's some magic going on, a lot of different like loose ends, etc. But overall, like I'm really enjoying it, and I definitely cannot wait to finish it. I feel like at the pace that I am reading, there's a very good chance that I'll finish it not tonight because it's kind of late already, but definitely tomorrow, the very latest this weekend. But I am flying through this, and like I just cannot not read this book right now. So I'm so happy that I picked up this book, and I feel like no one knows about it. It's a very underhyped book. Like I didn't even know about it until I requested it on NetGalley, but I'm loving it. So anyways, that is it in terms of this update, and I will check back in later once I finish this book, and hopefully I will give this book 5 stars. Like it is just so freaking good. Super quick update, but I did manage to finish this book over here. It's my first ebook. I actually really like this. I do think that it's not quite a 5-star read. I feel like the ending left a little bit to be desired. I felt like it was a little bit fast, and there were some conclusions to it that I was like, I don't know, it felt a little bit open-ended for me, and I am personally not a huge fan of open-ended conclusions. So for me, I wasn't the biggest fan of that. That being said though, I feel like if you do like open-ended conclusions, endings, then I think you will enjoy this. But I feel like it ended on a way that could potentially lead to a sequel. But as of right now on Goodreads, it doesn't show that there's a sequel, so I'm assuming that this is a standalone. But overall though, I did really enjoy it, so I think I'm gonna give this book like 4 stars. I feel like just the ending just a little bit too fast for me, and the way how it ended wasn't the most satisfactory ending, but I still really enjoyed it. I really recommend it if you're looking for something that is fast-paced, action-packed. I love the romance. The romance was amazing. Like it was just so adorable, and I was so here for it. So yeah, I'm really happy that I read this book and definitely recommend it. So anyways, that is it for this ebook, and I just started the second ebook, which is the last book that I'll be reading for this vlog. That is Tiny Imperfections. Currently, I have read like 1%, so I pretty much have nothing to tell you guys right now, other than the fact that I feel like coming out of a really high stakes fantasy, fast-paced, action-packed world, it's a little bit slow because it's a contemporary. So I'm still kind of like, what's going on? I don't really know yet, but I will let you guys know once I read some more. Okay, so a quick update on this book over here. So far, I'm like not the biggest fan of it. There's like thoughts about this book. So this book follows a woman called Josie, who is a single woman raising her daughter up. She only has the help of her aunt Viv, and all she wants really is for her daughter to not make the same mistake as she did many years ago, where she was in college and then she got scouted to be a model, and she decided to quit school become a model, and she was actually really successful for a while. She was like going to Milan, going to Tokyo, doing the high-end fashion shows, and then she got pregnant. So she got pregnant like pretty early on to her modeling career. So after she became pregnant and after she gave birth, her modeling career kind of tanked because of her figure. Like, it just wasn't the same anymore. She still tried her best, but after a few years of doing that, she was like, it's just not working. So she became an admissions director to this really prestigious private school. And it's just like kind of weird because like you see her reflections upon everyone and kind of like her thought process is like, oh, should I accept that family? Should I accept that family? And like, I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of weird. And not only that, but like there's a lot of stuff about the main character Josie that I'm not a huge fan of. First of all, I think she's very racist towards Asians. There's been multiple scenes in this book where she has said things I was like, that just seems super racist, specifically towards Asian people. And there's one scene in particular where she was like, well, I'm not racist, but, and I'm like, okay, every time someone says that, it means that they're racist. Like, whatever they're about to say next is definitely a racist statement, which is why they have this need to have a disclaimer before that. So I don't know, like I just feel like the main character herself is quite racist, especially towards Asian people. And not only that, but like I understand where she's coming from with her daughter, trying to make sure her daughter doesn't make the same mistake as her, but it's so frustrating to see her just like shut her daughter down to the point that she doesn't even listen to her aunt, she doesn't listen to her colleagues, she doesn't listen to anybody who also knows her daughter quite well, because her daughter actually wants to be a ballet, like go to Juilliard, which is an amazing school. So like I just feel like she's so stubborn, and like I see where she's coming from because of her own experience, but she's not even willing to listen to her daughter, and like that frustrated me to no end. I'm about 60% of the way through, by the way, and like there's just like stuff about this book that I'm just like, I just like don't really like the main character very much. And then there's also this romance that I'm like, I don't even know what's going on there either, because I feel like the book is supposed to have a romance in there based on the synopsis, but the only inkling of a romance right now is with a guy who is gay because he is married and has a husband. So I obviously like, I just don't see that going anywhere unless there's a huge plot twist of that. The only person that I can think of other than him is someone that like Josie has had 3 interactions with. So I just don't really see where the romance is going at all in this book. So I don't know, this book is just like all over the place. I'm definitely not a huge fan of the main character. I find her very stubborn, very racist, especially towards Asians. She's always drinking too, like she's always having these nights with her girlfriend and it's just always drinking, and I feel like she knows that she drinks a lot because she talks about how she drinks so much. So clearly there's a problem there as well. So I don't know, I just feel this book is just like not the biggest fan of, but at the same time though, I am really enjoying reading about her daughter and her aunt and kind of like the interactions, because some of them are kind of funny and they're entertaining, but the main character herself is very unlikable and I'm not a fan of her. So anyways, that is it with this update. I hope to finish it soon though. Like I actually kind of debated about DNFing it, but then I saw that I was already halfway through and I was like, well, I figured like I might as well just finish it because I'm already halfway through. But now I'm 60% of the way through, so hopefully I can finish it maybe today or tomorrow, but definitely soon. Anyways, this is the last book, but just not a fan of her at all. Hey guys, I just wanted to jump in very quickly and end this vlog here because it's actually been a few days since I finished the book already, and that is Tiny Imperfections. This one, I want to give this book 2 stars. The character herself just really bothered me and frustrated me throughout the entire book. I also really did not like the romance aspect and the way how it ended. It felt very unsatisfactory. Like it just concluded in like 2 sentences, or like the reasoning behind it was done in 2 sentences, and I was just like, that was it. So I don't know, I just feel like as a book that has romance as its main content, at least it's like one of the main parts of this book, it was just not great for me. But I did really enjoy the interactions between Josie and her daughter, as well as her aunt, and kind of the family dynamics there, as well as learning and reading more about the inner workings of how admissions work for private schools. Like that was actually really fascinating to read kind of the politics behind it all and just what made the cut and etc. Like some of it is obviously like a given. I feel like most of us probably know, you know, money talks, but it was just still really fascinating just to read like everything about it and just see like how it really worked. But anyways, that is it with this book. I'm giving this book 2 stars. It was just, I don't know. So anyways, just quickly wrapping up books that I read for this entire vlog. The first book that I read was Girl, Serpent, THORN by Melissa BASHARDOUST. This one I gave 4 stars, I believe. It's been a while since I've read this book, guys. The next book that I read was The Betrothed by KIERA. This one I gave 2 stars. And then the first ebook that I read was Of Silver and Shadow. I feel like I'm like forgetting some of these names here. This one I gave 4 stars. I highly recommend this one. And then the last book that I read was Tiny Imperfections. This one I gave 2 stars. So anyways, that is it in terms of this reading vlog. I'm going to try to finish editing this clip right away, and I hope we get this up within the next day or two, because I'm actually kind of behind now. It's already June, so you know. So anyways, that is it in terms of this reading vlog. As always, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe down below, don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.